Welcome to Sidetracked, your unofficial agency of record. I'm Shane.
And I'm Emily, and we help run Trek, a tech-driven, full-service creative agency based in Rockford, Illinois.
Here on the podcast, we tackle our clients' biggest marketing challenges. We reveal what's worked for us and dig into real-life case studies and practical strategies you can put to work today.
Curiosity is our compass, which is why we always start with a question. All right, today's big question: how has AI changed web development? And here, back on the pod, Sam Basili, our technical director, to help us answer this question.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah, it's great to be back, guys. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, you're our wise web development master. So this is why we have to start with you for this question. And Shane and I have lots of questions on this topic, actually. So, to level set here, I'm not going to ask you if development has changed in the last 6 months, year, because I know it has. I think everyone at this point knows that it has changed development. But I have a fun question first for both of you. Are you familiar with the term vibe coding?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, both good and bad.
Yeah, define. Okay, so Sam, you define vibe coding as you understand it.
Well, vibe coding is kind of like where you're more of a director than you are maybe a programmer, where you're giving an AI agent some directive, some guidance, and then that coding kind of flows along. You look, you adjust, you move along that path. Basically, moving along as it flows and seeing what the outcome is as it goes along.
So instead of writing the code oneself, one is directing the AI to write the code, basically like on vibes.
Right. It's an orchestration more than a coding effort.
Is that how you understand it, Shane?
Yes, I do not understand it in the way that Sam understands it. My understanding is that, so correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. From what I've seen a lot of experienced technical developers saying things like vibe coding is essentially just creating a bunch of technical debt because people are out there vibe coding things who don't really know what they're doing. Is that true, false, more nuanced than that?
Yes, true and false.
All of the above. Say more.
Well, vibe coding really can save you some time, or get a concept going. But it's true; it can create technical debt because you're moving in. Maybe if you're moving in pieces, once you're all done, the whole conglomerate of the code might not be the best. Right? It might need it might need to be reviewed once again to say, okay, now based on everything we have, is everything still look good? Is everything still understood? Is this the best approach? And I think it goes back to the idea of, is AI a senior development specialist, or is it a junior programmer?
How do you think of it?
I think of it as a junior programmer. I think it's very deep and knowledgeable of everything coding-wise, given small tasks, and it will execute things many times very well. But, in fact, on a project I was at on just last week, after I went through and executed the entire task, I looked at it and said, I think we need to revisit this based on everything that is presented now, right? Because there were refactorings and modifications that could be made. So the junior programmer might just put all the pieces together, but it takes the senior person to look at it with a trained eye to say, I told someone to do this incorrectly. Right?
See, it's interesting to hear you talk about this because you come with expertise, and so you're viewing all of this through your lens. I'm thinking about it a little differently. Like, I think the perception is that the code that comes from AI tools is better than a junior, that it is more moderate to senior level, like the perception from people who don't know coding, which is how I understand vibe coding, is like I know nothing about code. I'm just kind of like going with the vibes. Does this look good? Does this feel good? I'm going to do it and trust that the AI is like doing it correctly. And then like I hear the same things Shane does of creating this technical debt. So there's like a perception of the value of what's coming out being actually higher than it is, according to what you're saying. Because you're saying, no, I'm looking at the code that's coming out. It's junior, not moderate or senior
Yeah,
level.
it's junior in the sense that you're asking it to execute code. It certainly has probably a greater depth of understanding of code and techniques that maybe a junior level doesn't have because
Mm.
it's been fed so much learning. Maybe that junior might not have that experience in. But I guess I look at it as junior in the sense that there's someone should be watching what's going on because technique might be right, code execution might be right, but the thought process that it was given could be off. That's not the fault of AI. That's the fault of someone who's executing the AI, right?
Like one example of this that came up, at the beginning of all this when vibe coding was new. I remember, Sam, we had somebody come to us and say, "Oh, I vibe coded this thing, and can you technical developers just like make it actually work now? Like I know I have a working proof of concept that I vibe coded, but the working proof of concept, if you remember the example that I'm talking about, I'm not going to name any names, but the working proof
hmm
of concept was written in the wrong code language."
Right. Or you vibe code yourself into a corner because again, you told the agent something incorrect, or it just you didn't give it the full picture.
Yeah. And if I
So
was going to go vibe code something,
yeah,
I wouldn't know what language to tell it to code in so that that thing
right,
can work with, everything else it needs to work with in the
right,
larger like marketing system or website that it's going to live in. Like I would have no
uh,
idea. So you in that case, you're way better off than me because you can at least like give it a prompt that says it's going to be in this language and it needs to like
right.
yeah.
Yeah, and then a classic, like again, example of last week is I went and used an agent and said I need to get all of these companies out of the system, and then I need to get all of this other data out of the system. So the companies was like 19,000 companies, and the data was 5,000 6,000 items. And then I thought to myself after I made it do all of that, I'm like, well, that's backwards, right? Because those 5,000 offers probably don't use the entire 19,000. So I made it fetch
Hmm.
way too many companies, right? But it did what I told it to do. And then after I looked at it all, and I'm like, no, we need to rework this, right? Let's flip these things and let's change the function name this to do this instead. And that's again where the senior eye and the human has to look at the situation and figure out what's the intent and
Hmm.
what's going on.
So what you're getting at is kind of was going to be my next question for you, which is what is a human's role in web development now? We could go philosophical with the answer to this question, but I think just starting with practically, what does it you're kind of giving us a few examples here, but like let's lay them out. What does a human's role look like in the technical coding world specifically today?
I think first of all, and first and foremost, the human provides the visualization, right? Because the AI agent is probably not going to read the room in a meeting and say this is the direction they want to go, right? So somebody has to be the conductor, and I think the human's role as a conductor is important in the tasks, no matter what you're doing with AI. And then from that, I still think that the human's role to execute the tasks in an order, and giving the agent or agents the tasks to execute. And again, being the conductor and letting it do basically make you more efficient in terms of what might take you 2 hours to write by hand. It's able to execute in minutes because it's just faster at it. So it isn't much different than 10 years ago, autocomplete. As you were typing in your environment, you auto-completed, and that made you faster. And then 2 years ago, autocomplete got even better and was at realizing what you intended to do. And then it started to look at not only what you intended to do, but was looking at what you had done previously in your code and finished off things based on what you had done. And now you're giving it more generalized ideas, and it is executing based on that. So once it's all done, I think the human's responsible to say, this is correct. This does what was intended.
I like that. I know you have a question, Shane. I'm just gonna say I like that thinking that we as humans are responsible for the output that comes out of the AI tools that we're using, and verifying, editing, polishing, or scrapping completely. Like, we have the
Yeah.
responsibility for what comes out of it. That thinking is paramount to success, I feel, with AI long term.
Case in point, Amazon AI was given a little bit too much power, and it took down a production site. Right? It assumed, or it determined that the best option to fix the issues on the production site was to scrap it.
Just turn it off.
And that was probably the best option, right? But humans don't get that option, right? And so it scrapped it. If a human was intervening in there, it would have said, that can't be done. We can't do it that way.
What was
We
the
have to find
impact to
another way.
them when that happened?
They were down for several days on that portion.
Like, thousands and thousands of companies with their businesses down or not able to access
Yeah.
their complete work. And
So in
Yeah.
that instance, was it some human somewhere just gave AI total license to go make decisions on their behalf?
Gave it too much license, and AI made the best choice. I'm going to say that it made the best choice. That site probably should have been completely rebuilt, but you can't do it that way, right? Real life isn't always logical. Like Mr. Spock always was logical, right? But that's not the way life works. Yeah, we've got a bunch of code now that we've got in production that we just can't just stop for several days. We have to figure out how to put on a new platform or to recode this without interrupting our clients.
So if the role of a technical developer going forward is going to be that experienced senior developer who can look at what AI is doing and say, yes, that's right, or no, that's wrong, or maybe technically that's right, but we don't want to do it that way. What is the role of more junior developers, or like what is the future of development? Because how do you get to be that senior developer without having gone through being the junior developer?
That's a great question. In fact, Mark Russinovich of Microsoft asked that same question. How do you get to be a senior developer if you don't have any juniors, right? So who is going to bring these people through the system so that they become the senior developers of the future if you're not evolving their skill set in a way? And I'm not sure I'm kind of a good answer to that, because it comes with experience. Anything you do, you become a good writer because you write a lot. You become a good coder because you've seen a lot of code. You're a good lawyer, a contract lawyer, because you've seen thousands of contracts. So
good and
how
bad.
do you? Yeah, So, and again, that all plays into this game of, how much do you turn over to the AI for its speed and efficiency, and how much do you still have to nurture along the human developer so that it can keep things in check and keep things going along?
Like, what are we losing by outsourcing things to AI? If we're gaining
Yeah.
speed, what are we losing? And is the trade-off worth it?
Yeah, and is it like I start to wonder too, like what are the qualities of someone who would want to code and learn to code in a world where AI is taking over that junior and say, no, I don't. Like, I want to learn the art of this. And we see a lot of that in our work, and the way that we approach work is much more like this is a craft that we take seriously and we want to know in and out. And that requires an innate curiosity and willingness to take a path that's not easy or short. And the thinking today is, how can it be a shorter journey? How can we make this more efficient? And it almost feels like that same, like, how can we leave room for the craft? Like, how do we build in efficiencies where we can, but give people the license to also try and fail, in a way that at scale, that a way that like a generation of people learning to code can still do that, like that feels like a society thing that we need to agree on, because like little decisions here and there from like companies like us, are one thing. But again, I told you I was going to try not to get philosophical here, but like how do we
But
support the next generation with this,
yeah, it's an age-old problem. I think it's just gotten faster at that. Many moons ago, I trained people on engineering software, and I always used to tell them, this isn't any smarter than you are. It's faster than you are. Gives you the opportunity to analyze, things many more times than you used to by hand, right? But you're still the expert, right? And you still have to offer the insight into the analysis. I had one professor tell me he told his students to design a chimney, and he gave them some criteria, and the student came back with a chimney that was 3 feet high and 100 feet in diameter. And he said it meets all the criteria, and the professor said, but it isn't practical. You don't have a 2 foot or 3 foot chimney, right? You're the expert here. So even though the software told you could do it, doesn't mean it's right. Now right becomes more than just technically right. Now it becomes, we're starting to step into maybe what is ethically right or morally right, and that's kind of an interesting new twist on this whole thing.
What are like, having looked at a lot of code now, good and bad over the years, and now having the AI code at your fingertips frequently, seeing the output, what are some of the red flags that you see for this junior developer? They start to use AI code. What are some of the red flags to watch out for, like first and foremost for these people? Like when they get the code, what are some ways it's not quite right?
From a junior or from a AI? Well, from a
From
junior's
AI
perspective,
or
from
junior.
AI, it's the same from, well, AI is going to be a higher quality code. I have to admit that it probably technically higher quality. But the fear I have is a junior just accepting whether it's very, very well written, has to be, again, whether it's doing what it's supposed to do. It always comes down to that. Is it approached the same way versus a junior who may have not have been as optimized as maybe an AI off the first shot? But I think it still comes down to always, you know, is the code doing what it's intended to do?
And not just what the technical ask was, but the kind of like ask behind the ask. Like when we're working with clients, they might ask for one thing, but it takes a very experienced marketer to hear the bigger problem that might exist behind that ask. And I see that with you a lot, Sam, and the work you do. An account manager may come to you and say, hey, the client wants this, but you're experienced enough to know that if they ask for that, they might also have questions about this other thing. And so when you're looking at maybe code produced by AI, you can bring that lens of, does it solve the bigger problem? Does it meet the
Right.
client's bigger need? And that's something that a junior developer is not going to be able to do either.
No, no, you're exactly right. Is that sometimes the problem being presented to you is a manifestation of something bigger, right? And you've got to solve the bigger problem um, to get, and the other one may work itself out in that process, but you're trying not to, throw a band-aid on something um, when there's a bigger problem below
Oh.
that's below the surface.
So it's not just for people coming up in web development, like how are they going to learn how to be senior programmers? How are they going to get that experience? But how are they going to get the critical thinking? How are they going to get the curiosity that it takes to truly be a very experienced senior programmer? Because it's not just programming.
No, it's more of a design and an engineering. How are they going to get the listening skills, right? How the presentation skills to be in a meeting, to listen, to reflect, to take accurate notes, so
Hmm.
that they can go back and execute tasks that solve the problem.
So in a way, again, like all of those human skills and competencies are probably going to become even more important than the programming skills, one might argue.
Yeah, I think in many ways because AI, we have to accept that AI can code faster, right? Given the task, it's going to execute the code faster, right? Types faster than I do, right? Um, it has a great learning base of all the code language techniques that I may not always know. It's going to implement those, hopefully in the best way. And then on the other end, yeah, the human's going to have to evaluate that. And then even beyond that, the person who evaluates it, who says it's good, should probably get another group of people in there to test, to make sure what they thought they were doing actually solves the problem without issue.
Hmm. It sounds to me like in with AI here is like kind of how I've approached AI personally when I'm using it for like, writing things here and there. I like assume that the first draft needs my critical thinking. And it might be that AI continues to get better and it needs less adjustment. That might be the case. That's what a lot of people think and are saying. But if you keep the assumption that I am needed in this process, that I am responsible for what's coming out of this, then I think you start to automatically be more curious about what's coming out by saying like, is this part right? Is this part exactly what I need? What is this doing? I don't understand how it got to this, and starting with that basic assumption of what it's giving me is not complete, like establish that. And then from there, it gets easier, I think, to force yourself to think critically about what it's giving you.
I
Hmm.
think like in the past when I coded and some of other developers I've worked with, I've always started when I approached a problem in code. The old training was to write flowcharts, but sometimes we live in a world where we just can't flowchart everything. But at least I would start by writing all my comments for the code, kind of pseudocoding, they'd call it, right? Here, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then filling in the gaps between the comments with code. And I think that's shifted a little bit in my programming with AI agents. Is instead of the pseudocoding comments, those are some of the directives I'm formulating for the agent to say, okay, let's do these things. and execute on these tasks. I'm still only very comfortable with small task execution. I know there are some people that'll send off a bunch of agents and they'll all come crashing together at the end, so to speak, and they're comfortable with that. But I like, moving along. I still think my efficiency is improved. I still prefer small task, checking things along the way, making sure I understand what it did.
Sam, how long have you been coding and how did you get into it? Because you did not start as a web developer in your career.
No, I got involved in coding. Actually, I found out that this cool little machine called an Apple IIc could do things like if you told it, to say hello 20 times, it would do it. And that was always even though I was not trained as a programmer, every chance I took a programming course. I learned Pascal and C++ and any kind of language, Fortran, anything I could take if I needed extra credits in college. It was always a programming course. I jumped across from teaching and I began my career in a mathematical modeling world, and I started writing programs for this tool that would assist the user in making life easier using the tool. It was the beginning of an API. The programmers gave me an inlet through the codes that I could command the tool. It was like a spreadsheet, and I could write to cells and read from cells and so on using a coding language. And so that was my next step in. And the programming world really evolved I evolved with the programming world. We went from, just straight, 60 characters across the screen in one color to Windows and those kinds of information. So I've seen so much change in 20 plus years of coding. Back from, putting cards in a machine and getting a printout to where we are now is just an amazing evolution. Probably one of the fastest evolutions I've seen of anything.
What are some of we talked about some of the skills that somebody might need today to code now that AI is here to be a good programmer. What are some similarities and differences with the skills you might have needed back then?
You were closer to the metal, I'll call it, then. So, for instance, you just assume your coding language is going to handle the memory allocations for you now. Back then, you had to go request it and give it back, okay? And you just assume endless boundaries of things for, speed and disk and memory. In those days, you were very constrained to how much space you might have because there was just a memory cap or a program limitation. I always admired the guys who had to write programs for things like dishwashers and stuff because they only had a little bit of space and they had to do everything they wanted to in a very constrained environment. And they did it.
I have never once thought about the people who write the code for my dishwasher.
Yeah.
But now, every time I look at it, I will think about that.
So how do you guys feel about AI and web development? How do you feel about it from the content standpoint?
I mean, what we've been talking about with AI and web development, I think we face some of the same issues and with AI and content development. Like I have questions about how do you get to be a good writer if you're never doing the writing? Like people who are coming up as writers and trying to make a career out of it, you can't get good at it without actually doing it. And I'm in the same boat as you, Sam. Like if I look at something written by AI, I have 100 critiques. But it might be perfectly fine for somebody who doesn't do this as their craft and isn't trying to, it's not a work product for them. Maybe they're just trying to create a LinkedIn post, which is where I see a lot of AI content these days. um, but as it pertains to specifically web development and website content, um, I think the next couple of years are going to be really interesting because we can ask it questions about what works for it. Like we're trying to figure out for our clients and testing things and figuring out how to analyze and report on what type of web content works well for AEO and to get, people's attention and potentially maybe traffic to your website, but actually like brand awareness and brand affinity, more importantly. And we can ask AI. So when we're working on that, when we're trying to do that, it's a tool that can help us. So I have complicated feelings about it.
We all do.
We all do.
We all do.
I don't use it to write because writing is my art and my craft. So to me that's too, I don't want to lose that skill, so I need to keep exercising that muscle for the rest of my life. And in my like personal writing outside of work, I wouldn't use it because the whole point is I enjoy writing. Like I enjoy the process of writing. But I do see its usefulness in helping us with other things related to content development. So, and it's very good at providing, say, an outline for a brochure that a writer could then fill in, like kind of giving them a head start. It's very good for things like that. But again, like, are we going to lose our ability to outline? Like, I want to stay good at outlining. So those are my very complicated feelings.
Okay, problem solved. We've recently, and when I say we, I mean you, Sam, have developed an AEO tool for helping us evaluate effectiveness with our websites and speaking to AEO, kind of as Shane was just talking about a few minutes ago. You want to tell us a little bit about what you built and how you used AI to build it?
Yeah, this is a great combination of humans and AI for schema. So let's look at the situation where we understood that AEO was going to become a big issue. And what we did first was we let the humans get involved and let them understand just what we want for schemas.
Schema
Typical
being,
schemas.
Oh yeah, pause. What's a schema?
yeah. I'm like, I know what this
Okay.
means, I think, but I'm going to be the dumb one in the room and ask.
Okay, schema being tagging, how you tag. Let's call it simply that. So one of the schemas might be the business, and the business schema might have their address, their geo coordinates, their phone number, their name, and so on.
And this is in the back end code on the web page. So it's not that you're seeing it on the web page, but it's built into the back end code so that things that are scraping that web page can read it and understand and take in that data.
Correct. Just like in days prior, a product might have metadata on it that identified its schema as a product schema. All right.
hmm
It had
So
price,
we've been
sale
using
price.
schemas for SEO for
Right.
decades.
Right. Structured data. Let's just call it structured data. But there's different kinds of schemas for businesses, for products, for videos, for podcasts. And so we identified what we thought were some of the more commonly used ones in our business. Then from there, we chose the properties that we think are more likely to fall in our realm. And we used that along with an AI agent so that we could say, hey, build me some code that will read the important parts of a web page. I'll give you a URL. You come back with all the content that's in the paragraph tags, all the H1s, H2s, H3s, H4. And hey, by the way, I'm saying this in human terms, but this is what we kind of did. Ignore things that are irrelevant to content, right? And maybe an image tag it's got a low image tags might have low priority, right? Or some other tag might be of a low value target. So take that page, give me all the content, and then given all the schemas, I'll give you all these schemas. Tell me which one it fit the best, right? Or the other way we did it was given this content from this page, right? Here's the URL. I want you to try to fit these schemas into the content you're reading, okay? Or match them up. So that was a combination of number one, the human figured out what schemas we wanted to work with, and we developed those. Number two, those were given to AI, an AI agent, and the description of the program I wanted. I slowly evolved that over a course of 2 or 3 days. So I actually had a functional tool. I vibe coded it, okay? So I had a functional tool. And then we take all that content and all those schemas and we push it through an API up to Anthropic, and we let that engine up there come back with the actual final output. So it's a lot of moving parts in that respect, but it just shows that you can work with the human nature, the AI agent vibe coding type nature, the AI upstream to come back and give you content, and then finally, the last step is here's what we think it should be. Hey, another human, aka Shane and her team, take a look at the content it's filling in on the schema and make sure that things look good, right? Because you can always re-enter it, right? This is just suggestion. So
Yeah. And then if we see it and say, wait a minute, that's not exactly right, then we can go back and look at the web page itself. Like
and say
maybe
why.
there's something not right there that we need to fix. Or we can just adjust the schema. And then there's that human step before we actually put that schema on the back end and implement it
On the
for
page.
for AEO, where there are humans involved at multiple steps here, even though AI tools were used to make it faster. And it's being done essentially for AI.
Right, because
So
if you think about it, if it was all human, someone has to have a good knowledge of the page, someone has to have a knowledge of the schema, somebody has to be copying and pasting things off the page into the schema, right? You're using AI in a sense that it makes things faster for you.
And so then now with this tool, we're able to do what? Better or faster or more or a new capability for our clients. Can you talk about that
Yeah, we're
specifically?
able to get involved in the AEO space, and for people who may not know that, AI tools that are using like Gemini and things are looking for different structure in that page. It's giving us the next evolution of how engines might answer a question when you ask a question in like a Gemini tool. So we're able to help structure data on their pages that makes their pages easy to read by AI. Therefore, they're more likely to come up in search results that are being initiated by AI tools.
Yeah, what my team's been working on for the last couple of years is how can we help our clients be mentioned more by these answer engines? And how can we ensure that it's their websites and their content that's being cited by these answer engines? And then the next layer is how can we make sure that when they're mentioned, the mentions are positive and accurate and complete and nuanced. And this is an evolving discipline. Like it's not it's similar to SEO in many ways, but it's also different. And so this is as we learn how to do this well, Sam's been creating tools to help us do it.
Yeah. So it is right now. It's obviously always a work in progress, but it's an internal tool. I think it helps us help our clients, and it helps us help them efficiently.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Sam.
Thank you.
It's always nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's always great to get a chance to chat with you guys.
It's always great. Thanks, Sam.
Okay, take care now.
Bye.
Bye.
For this season of Mike's at the Bar, I'm asking fellow Trekkies to join me for 3 questions. Little do they know that I also have a wildcard question for them. Today, I have Alyssa Watkins, Senior Graphic Designer. Thanks for joining me, Alyssa.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Question 1. If someone walked up and asked you, what do you do, and you couldn't use the word design, how would you describe it?
Okay. It's kind of a really vague question, but I definitely had to answer a similar question in the past. So I think that the way it comes to me is that it's a visual communication and organization of ideas and information.
So would you say that we're also problem solvers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the problem could be just about anything. So it's not always, the same type of problem. And I think that applies across the board.
How do you balance staying true to a client's brand while still pushing them creatively in a direction they maybe haven't considered?
For a majority of the projects we work on, I feel like they either begin with a very specific design that they're asking for or a very specific end goal. And usually we don't just give them one option to consider. We try to give them, we tell them what to expect. And then I feel like we always end up going like one beyond that. And we send it and we hope that they love it.
Yeah, some out-of-box thoughts and, that puts them out of their comfort zone a little bit. Yeah, can push them forward. Very cool. Okay, we're done with these.
Should I take a drag them?
You can do whatever you want, but they got an extra one for you. Okay, a wild card question.
Sorry, my hands are occupied.
What do I do with my hands? Wild card question.
Okay.
Go ahead and pick one out of Grandpa's can. Hand it to me, but don't look at it.
Okay. Oh, I got 2.
Okay, the one that you have your hand on.
Okay.
Here we go. You ready? Ooh, if internet went down for a week, what would you actually do with yourself?
Oh, I would do home projects. Yeah. Yeah, I would build something. Build some shelves or, I don't know, build some cool fort for the kids. Box fort, blanket fort, whatever.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. We've definitely gone for a week without internet before, so it was very enjoyable, actually. Yeah,
Cool.
I would enjoy that. That was a good one.
Well, thanks for joining it.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thanks for joining us. If you like this episode of Sidetracked, rate and review it, share it with a friend, and subscribe.
Sidetracked is a production of Trek. We are produced by Nick Grobe. You can learn more about us at trek.com. See you next time.
See you next time. One more thing.
What?
My brother texted me last night, and speaking of vibe coding, he is vibe coding an entire game, video game, like computer game, for me and him and my sister to play, which is Nancy Drew. We used to play all the Nancy Drew games growing up, and then they got rid of all the cool stuff in recent years and stopped making the games. So he is vibe coding a game with all of our favorite pieces from all the years past.
Ugh, I love that for you. That's a great use of vibe coding.
It is the best use of vibe coding.
Have fun.
Thanks.
See ya.